Welcome to Warfighter Advanced, Coming Home at Last, a podcast by and for veterans. Warfighter Advance is an organization whose mission is the successful reintegration of every warfighter. Welcome to another Mindful Minute with a Mentor as part of the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Joining me today is Richard Kellmel. Richard is an alumnus of the Warfighter program, but he's also a mentor and an instructor in the program. Welcome, Richard.
Good morning. Thank you.
Talk to us a little bit about your military background, first of all, and what led you to Warfighter.
Okay. I joined the Marine Corps in 1996. Didn't really have a lot of direction. Was thinking of going to college, but didn't prepare myself for it. Didn't take any tests or submit any admissions or anything like that, and just kind of figured I had to do something with my life. So joined the Marine Corps as a radar technician. Really only was going to go in for one tour, but it was just a very comfortable place and something I enjoyed doing. So stuck around and did a whole career of it. Did 20 years and retired in 2016.
And then you went through the Warfighter Advanced program.
Correct.
And then you returned as a mentor.
Yes.
And one of the things you've been doing for Warfighter Advanced is talking about the importance of physicality for warfighters. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came through Evo 20 after a lot of prodding from Doc V that she felt that I could really benefit from it. Not thinking that I really needed anything like this, and maybe not really understanding exactly what the program provided. Came through Evo 20, really enjoyed it. It was something that I didn't realize I really needed, the cohesion, the camaraderie, being around people who thought like me and saw the world like me, had experiences like me, and then just felt I wanted to give more. So I started as a mentor and leading PT with Evolution 22 and have been doing it ever since. The thing that kind of attracted me to that was I had my own struggles with weight and fitness and physical ability in my last couple years in the Marine Corps, where I really just started to dread exercise because I needed to do it in order to maintain weight and in order to maintain my physical abilities to pass my fitness tests and stuff like that, and just became a hassle. So when I retired, just completely dropped my pack and just realized very, very quickly that I was no longer the person I was anymore. The person I saw in the mirror was not the person that I saw for 20 years. And I just started to work out, and I wanted to share that experience and the things that I did to kind of get back on track to be healthier and more cognizant of it, but also using it as a tool to cope with things that I was dealing with, cope with stress, cope with anxieties, to have something else to focus on, beyond that. So sharing that with other warfighters and learning, doing some research, learning the benefits of it in comparison to medications and things like that.
So for warfighters and people that may be watching or listening to this podcast, what are some simple ways of beginning?
Oh, I think the biggest hurdle that we all have is the obstacles that we put in the way, trying to make it a part of our day, or thinking that it has to be this all-out exercise routine that you have to pay for a gym membership. And really, it's about movement. The thing that I try to stress the most to the warfighters is just movement. Getting up and walking around, walking to the mailbox, walking around the store, taking the stairs, walking your dog or whatever. But implementing movement. I think our country as a whole is more sedative now than it has been in previous years. And with technology, we kind of have that ability to do that. But our joints get sore and stiff if you're not moving around. So getting up and walking, getting up and doing just really anything to manipulate those joints and get the blood and nutrients into those joints is positive. It's just a good
And
thing.
you really don't need equipment. You don't
Correct.
need gym equipment.
Right. Any type of resistance, whether it's bands or leaning against a wall or holding onto a chair, standing up and sitting down in a chair is a squat. You could do that watching a show and not really be paying attention to the fact that you're doing that. The other thing I kind of mention is implementing things like activities, like going to a museum. Walking around and seeing the paintings or seeing the exhibits in a museum, you're not paying attention to the fact that you're on your feet and you're walking around. You're paying attention to your surroundings. And then you leave the museum, you look down at your watch, and it's like, wow, I walked 2.5 miles and I wasn't even thinking about it. And it's just a good form of activity.
Well, thank you for sharing that good advice with us, and thank you for talking us today, and thank you for your contribution to Warfighter Advance.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
My guest today for a Mindful Minute with a Mentor is Tony Nosko. Tony is an alumnus of Warfighter Advance. He's been a mentor, and he offers a special program for warfighters as well. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks.
Tony, first of all, tell me a little bit about your military background and your experience.
Okay, I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school in 1982. It really there wasn't a lot going on, so I didn't have any, exciting stories to tell. I mean, I worked in a clerical job for 4 years. In the back there, though, I kind of struggled with alcohol over the years. It started to really blossom in there, and then over the years following, it really came out in the open.
What brought you to Warfighter Advance?
Well, my alcohol is my demon, and I got sober through AA back in 2018. And as I worked through that program, one of the big things that we stress is service to others. So a friend of mine was celebrating an anniversary, and he mentioned that he worked at his veteran program, and I said, I want to get in on that because, that's something I've wanted to do for a while. So he's been coming to Warfighter for years, and there was an opportunity there to go through an Evo and see what it's like and then help others.
So you came back as a mentor first, and then you helped establish an AA program here at Warfighter.
Yes. A lot of times people will come, they're here for a week and they need meetings, AA meetings. And I live close by, so I was able to, bring a meeting in here. COVID showed us how to, pick up and just bring a meeting into anywhere pretty much. So I started on that, I guess, a year and a half ago, such early 2023.
What kind of reactions do you get from warfighters who come to the program to Evo and then discover AA here as well?
It's kind of eye-opening for them because it's been in the back of their mind, I'm sure, that if you think you have a problem, usually you do. And they start to realize that, as you open up and tell them about some of the stuff you've been through, that they start to realize that they've got the same thing. And they're more open to just talking about it and maybe joining us for the meeting and maybe pursuing sobriety in that sense.
What kinds of observations have you made of warfighters as they go through the program, whether they are struggling with alcoholism or not?
Well, the biggest thing that affects alcoholics, I think, is shame and guilt over, our behavior. And I think a lot of the shame and guilt maybe is in the back of the mind of a lot of warfighters. They suffered a moral injury, I think is the term Doc B uses. And it's, you got to talk about it and get it out in the open and realize what's going on there and why you feel the way you do. And that's a lot of how the whole 12-step AA program kind of helped me come to terms with my past.
Well, thank you for your contributions to Warfighter Advance, and thank you for joining us today to talk about it.
Thanks.
Today's guest is Tracy Pritchard. Tracy is a nutritionist who's been presenting at Warfighter Advance for a number of years now.
At least a decade.
At least a decade. So, Tracy, first of all, welcome. And tell us a little bit about your background, both a military background and how you became a nutritionist.
Sure. So I served in the Marine Corps as a logistics officer from 1996 through 2003. I transitioned into the reserves until 2006. Also married to a retired Marine. My husband flew the CH-53 Echo helicopter. So after the Marine Corps, I was at home with 3 young children and had the post 9/11 GI Bill. That was not eligible to pass along to them. So I thought at age 40, I'd go back to school. And I always loved nutrition and wanted to learn more. So I went back and got a master's of science in human nutrition. And I also have a board credential called, I'm a certified nutrition specialist, and I'm licensed in the state of Maryland. So I do see clients one-on-one in clinics. I do seminars here and some other places as well.
Great, great. Now, a lot of our warfighters that go through our evolution, and probably some of the people that are listening or watching today, struggle with their own nutrition, and especially the balances. You talk about it between the mind and the body. Could you talk about that a little bit, and maybe what kind of simple advice you could give them for maybe shifting their diet?
Sure. Well, the first thing is that there's really no one size fits all for everybody. We really need to meet people where they're at. I think too often there's fad diets or, superfoods, miracle pills, supplements. We really need to look at what are you currently doing and what could you do a little better. One of the main things I talk to people about is water intake. A lot of people are just chronically dehydrated and don't realize how much better they'll feel once they're hydrated. A lot of times the headaches minimize or go away, their bowels move better. They find that they're not overeating because, in fact, they were thirsty, not hungry. So I like to set small goals. If somebody's drinking, 1 glass of water a day, let's start shooting for 2 or 3 glasses of water a day and ultimately work up to, a goal that they can then be their new normal. So water would be one place where I would absolutely start. And for most people, it's as simple as get a water bottle that you like. Do you like drinking hot water or cold water? And measuring it. Water is really easy to measure. There's really no excuse not to get water in. Some people need to set alarms. Some people need to couple it with something else. For example, many people like their morning cup of coffee. Well, can you drink 8 ounces of water before your coffee and just start getting into new habits?
Are there any food recommendations that you can make besides water that would be helpful as a way to start?
Sure. For most people, it's just eating more whole foods. That's the less processed, not the ultra processed food. So for example, whole fruits and vegetables, which are packed with fiber and nutrients. Here at Warfighter, the participants get a handout called the phytonutrient spectrum list. And that shows foods broken down into color categories. And we like to say, eat the rainbow. And it's amazing how simply looking at those colors and adding those things in can make a big difference because those different colors actually do different things in the body and support different conditions.
Well, thank you for sharing these little tidbits with us today. And thank you for your service to Warfighter Advance.
Thank you for having me today.
This has been another episode of A Mindful Minute with a Mentor here on the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Thank you for joining us for the Warfighter Advance Coming Home at Last podcast. Warfighter Advance envisions a world where warfighters are fully restored through a non-medical process. To achieve that vision, Warfighter Advance sponsors 6 7-day training sessions each year to which veterans and active duty service members can apply, and for no cost to the warfighter. If you or those you know are struggling with issues related to reintegration, please contact us through our website. We are dedicated to lead the way so that every warfighter has the information, tools, and support they need to successfully reintegrate. Until next time, this is Michael Arndt on behalf of Warfighter Advance.